everybody. I'm Dom. That's
Hi.
Kitty. Let me repost on Blue Sky. Blue Sky is having trouble. I don't know. We're live right now. Here we go.
It's been a
Blue
hot minute.
Sky. I think we read. Oh. God. Sorry. I was getting lots of feedback there. Oh my God, that killed me. Hello, everyone. Sorry about that. A little audio issue. Hey, it happens.
Yeah.
Kitty, I want to talk about what we were talking about right before we started the air. But before we do that, I have to tell you about my day from hell.
Oh.
While
This ought to
people
be
are
fun.
getting here and arriving and figuring out that we're online, I'm going to tell you about my day of hell.
Okay.
So my day started. All right, I start a new job July 16th. Very excited.
Yay!
I'll be doing executive recruiting for litigation attorneys, helping litigation attorneys find firms, helping firms find litigation attorneys. Both sides of the recruiting.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it's very exciting work. I'm excited to do it. But one of the things that I have to hi everybody. One of the things you have to do in this job is a drug screening, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I had to go down to the local clinic and urinate
In a cup.
into a plastic receptacle.
Yes.
Doesn't that sound easy? It sounds like that sort of thing would be really easy to accomplish.
Especially for someone with male anatomy. I have to do that regularly for my doctor.
Right.
So, like, as one born with female anatomy, it's a little bit more tricky.
It's a little bit more tricky.
Just a bit.
But from what I understand, I don't know from personal experience. I just know from what I've read. I don't look at those parts. I just read about them.
Yes, you're a good Christian boy.
You know me. I'm going to do the science, crafts, and everything. Anywho, well, last night I was walking the dog before I was going to bed, and they hadn't mowed, and there was like a tuft of grass. Anyway, I twisted my back up pretty bad last night.
Ooh, not fun.
My back's already not great. So I didn't sleep I got about an hour and a half of sleep last night. So I woke up around 5:30. The dog knew that I was up. He wanted to go back outside because, of course. So I'm just like, I'm up, whatever. At like 7:30, I start looking for an Uber. Okay. It took me 2 hours to get an Uber.
Christ.
Welcome to Asheville. Penalties of living in a small town. Okay, so I get the Uber, finally. Very nice lady. We get to the clinic. Now, before you do a drug screening, I don't know if you know this, but you have to do a lot of paperwork. It's not, you don't just like they had to verify my identity and a whole bunch of different stuff before I can even make the appointment. So I go in and they hand me, I go in, she goes, it's going to be about 5 minutes. And I said, okay. I sit down, 5 minutes, she calls back up, hands me the exact paperwork that I've already filled out online. Everything, she's like, I need you to fill this all out. And I'm like, what? I said to her, not as a frustrated tone as I am right now, but isn't this the same paper? She's like, yeah, we require you to fill it out in person as well. And I'm like,
yay.
Okay, my Uber is waiting, by the way. So I fill it out, whatever. Calls me back up, lets me know that I've missed this thing. It's fine. It's whatever. So almost 20 minutes goes by before I finally get into a place where they have cups you can pee in. Okay, very nice lady. Very, very kind nurse that I worked with. Very nice lady. Props to you, Donna. You'll never see this, but if you ever do, props to you. You're fantastic. I got to pee in the cup, and there's not enough. I didn't pee. I peed not long before I left because I was worried that I would get there and I have to wait too long. Once you get there, you can't pee. I don't know if you guys know this. Once you get inside the clinic, you're not allowed to leave the building. You're not allowed to pull things out of your pockets, and you are not allowed to use any restroom, except for when the person hands you the exact cup that you were going to pee in. They're going to put all the things on. There are strict rules. So I'm like, well, I'm going to pee now, and I'm going to drink water on the way. And by the time I get a cup in front of me, I'll pee enough. I didn't pee enough. 66 milliliters, and it wasn't enough pee. My Uber is still outside waiting. So she gives me 2 bottles of water. She goes, we'll call you back in 30 minutes. And I'm like, okay, this is going to be the most expensive Uber ever. But I'm terrified because it took me 2 hours to find an Uber. So if I tell the Uber to leave, anyway, 30 minutes goes by. I produced enough urine. Fantastic. I know everybody's cheering right now. Confetti and streamers just went off. We do our thing. There's more paperwork to fill out. You have to sign a bunch of stuff. They put stickers on the thing and separated in 2 different bottles. There's a whole deal when you pee. It's not just peeing in a cup. There's a whole bunch of stuff. And finally, I submitted all my stuff, and I went home. That's how my day started. That was the start of my day today.
I am on controlled substances for my condition, so I get random drug screenings from pain management. So I never know when they're going to test me. So I just make sure I have to pee every time I go to a doctor's appointment. Back a while ago, I had a kidney stone, like a really, really bad one that actually blocked off one of my kidneys. And the first sign that I had was no matter what I tried, I could not produce enough for the random screening that they did. So luckily they were like, hey, you tried, it's fine, and they let me do it later. And that was after I had the surgery to remove the kidney stone. So.
Oh, I will tell you, I don't know that there's a more humiliating thing on the planet Earth than to look a stranger in the eye and say, I didn't pee enough for you.
Yeah.
That's
water sports aren't my thing. Like,
Scott
go off.
Was a pretty cringy episode of Office, but me handing that lady my inadequate cup of pee this morning and saying, I'm sorry, I didn't make enough for you. And our ordeal together will now continue. That was pretty humiliating. So
anyway. I have been there. I have felt that pain. It is not fun.
It's not fun. It's not fun. Drink more water, kids.
Yeah,
and
hydrate.
We're going to get to know kings, okay? We like to talk about nothing for a few minutes to let people get here. We're going to talk.
Absolutely.
We have so much to freaking get to.
So much.
I wanted to explain all this because I am not on my game tonight. I tried to move the show to tomorrow night because I'm exhausted.
But I have yoga.
I'm going to do my best to get through this. But if you get tinges of extra short-temperedness from yours truly,
or spaciness,
you can understand. By the way, this was the other thing. I forgot about this. At about 6:30 this morning, after I brought the dog back in, 6 o'clock, once I brought the dog back in, I stubbed my little toe on my left foot so bad I went to my knees. So I've also been dealing with that all day. My left pinky toe is just throbbing. Okay. I'm all right. I'm okay. Kitty, we're going to get to your story in a little bit because I have a segue. Okay.
All right.
But I want to tell you about what happened with my Uber driver. We're going to get to chat too before we really delve into No Kings. I see you guys are saying some great stuff, and I'll go through it before we get into that. The last thing I said to my Uber driver, who was a queer woman of color, okay, so keep that in mind for what progressed. I said, I hope you have a great weekend this weekend. And she said, well, is it a holiday? And I said, it's Juneteenth. And she goes, oh, so it's a holiday for some of us.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, that's fair. That's fair. That's a fair statement. But it is Juneteenth. And last weekend was June 14th. And in a week and a half-ish, it's June 4th. Okay? So we're going to talk about June 14th aimed at July 4th. Okay? Because there's July 4th protests coming up. Okay. I'm caught up on chat. I am extremely jealous, Maya, that you got to sleep for 12 hours. I wish. Hopefully tonight.
I can't remember the last time I slept that long.
If you follow me on Blue Sky, you know that I found the No Kings June 14th protest quite interesting because I kept posting about them constantly. There have been lots of different estimates. One of the things I want to talk about, I want to open with tonight, is the 3.5% thing. Kitty, do you know what the 3.5% thing?
Off the top of my head, no.
Okay. The claim is that if 3.5% of a population participates in protests, that every time that's happened, the government that they were underneath was later replaced or overthrown. Okay. So what it's saying is that if 3.5% of your population is so politically active that they're literally in the street, you have a real movement going on. Now,
that tracks.
It tracks, but it's been debunked. So
Yeah.
It's not true, but it's a really great image to have in your head. Unfortunately, I've looked into it. I don't think that it's actually necessary. However, I think what's happened is that when things have gotten so bad, under certain circumstances, large swaths of the population has been active. But there's also been situations like with the French resistance, more than 3.5% of the French population was part of the French resistance. But they weren't out in the streets. They were just sabotaging bridges and destroying power lines and doing all the things that the French resistance did, right? They were just being the French resistance. They poisoned people. I mean, they were vicious.
This is why Macron backed away when he was going to institute that tax on the working class, and they started to riot, and he's like, never mind.
I am glad I read all that, Titan. Yes, yeah. Macron. Well, I want to talk about the G7 a little bit too. The thing about the French resistance, I don't want to get too far into this, but the thing the French resistance understood was that if they had ever organized, they'd be dead. They would have been decimated if they had organized. The French resistance was only successful because they were completely disorganized, and there was pockets of them moving towards the same goal, but they were completely. They had no idea what the other groups were doing or who the other groups were or anything. And so the Nazis had many small fires to put out instead of one large fire, and that's why the French resistance was so successful. And I have seen people, saying that we should have a similar type of resistance towards Trump, and I don't agree. I think if you're talking about overthrowing militant occupiers, sure. We're close. I'm not saying we're not close. But we're not at the point where there's, troops on every street corner, in the big cities at least. So
at least not all of them.
Yeah, I don't think this would be the time to like disorganize into little cells and do like no. I think large scale organized protests are the exact right move right now, and I think they're working.
Yeah. I mean, considering the fact that, even though he backpedaled on it, like Trump did, say, hey, let's like not let's not target the agricultural workers as much, and right. I think part of that was also like, Purdue and other like wealthy people were like, hey, you're getting rid of all my workforce.
Right. It was the big companies that convinced me.
Dom, check your mic input because it might be your camera and not your mic.
Again?
I don't know. It just sounds a little bit off. But anyways. And I was hearing the fan, and like that's what tipped it off because last time it happened.
I don't know how it keeps doing this.
Sorry,
I had an update.
No.
They're so much better. And I don't hear the fan now.
Like when I have it set up right when we start the stream, and then we start the stream and it defaults over to the other microphone. So it's just something I got to keep in mind. Sorry about that, guys.
Anyways, hey, at least it's fixed like early on, but I didn't want to interrupt you while you were on your
No, it's fine.
Thing.
It's fine. You're fine. Don't worry about it.
But yeah, so he backpedaled and now he's going forward with it again, but
Right.
he sees the numbers. He may be like, pounding his chest that, hey, I've got a mandate and the polls are up. And it's like the only polls you've erected are the two at the White House, the flag polls. And so he sees it. Like, even if he won't admit it, he sees like this massive backlash. I mean, you saw videos from his little wish.com fascist parade where he looked like he was almost about to cry.
Yeah.
He looked like he was about to cry. And I got so much schadenfreude from that. So much from that. Like, I almost felt bad for him, but then I'm like, nah. So between that, the fact that No Kings was just bigger than everything, like, he is kind of like soft pedaling a little bit. I mean, not in the blue cities, or at least like the blue states. He's still like ready to go to war in LA and,
Right.
Ignoring posse comitatus and having
Trying to.
fucking Marine or trying to. There was a video I saw just yesterday of a Marine detaining a U.S. citizen.
Yep. They
Veteran
detained a
who
man,
was on their way
another veteran on the way to his VA appointment.
to a VA appointment, and
Yeah,
like that was on video,
Right.
a breach of posse comitatus, like full
Right.
stop. Like, there is no do not pass go, do not collect $200, straight to jail with that.
Right. Which is why we have to keep protesting, which is why we need to make sure that July
Yes.
4th is bigger than bigger than June 14th. So Trump this morning, I posted on Blue Sky. He said, or maybe it was this afternoon, I don't know, my day is all fucked. He said that MAGA now hates Fox News because they keep putting out polls that show him down or that aren't positive towards him. I don't even know what the poll said. So the answer to your question is that we're at the point, guys, like, you know how there's been like positive financial news suddenly lately, and it's like, how are we getting positive financial news? Well, we're at the point where they're starting to overwrite truth with the truth they want us to see, even from like trusted government sources. So we're at the point where we can't really trust information coming from government sources anymore. Where like it was always dubious. I'm not saying that it was always perfect or something. Like, they always flubbed the numbers and we kind of knew that, okay, yeah, they're flubbing the numbers a little bit, but all right. They're just going to start making things up now. And I'm talking about CPI and CPE and financial or the employment number. I'm talking about they're going to just start making it up now.
Well, and that's the thing, like, case in point, like, the jobs reports, they usually ended up getting adjusted, a little bit later, and they would go down a little bit because, like, it's a best guess, and then once all the dust settles, they're like, okay, so it was like 15,000 jobs less than we thought, or something like that. So there was always some flexibility to the numbers. But the jobs report that came out most recently, when it got corrected to what it actually was, and it's probably the last time that it's going to actually be somewhat accurate. It was some like 90,000 jobs less.
Right.
But nobody wants to talk about, so nobody wants to talk about that. And I don't think we're going to be seeing those accurate numbers anymore. I mean, we're already seeing, Trump sycophants going out and essentially saying going to war with Iran is peace. Like, we are 1984, war is peace.
Yeah, and like one of the ways that we get a lot of the CPE and CPI data and stuff is federal workers or federal contractors literally going into grocery stores and looking at the prices of things and reporting them into a database. Like, that's how archaic this system for it has been, but it needs to be that archaic because it's literally them just walking into their local grocery store, their or whatever store or place that's near them and getting just the price that's being advertised. And that's why those prices were really, really trusted, because you could say, yeah, the price of eggs, in March 2024, when I walked in, was $3.53. Last year it was, $3.56, whatever it was. And you could trust it year over year from different markets. And you had all this different data that the people in the financial sector, they look at all of this. Like, that's how they make their decisions about things that affect you, like what the interest rate is when you buy a new car, or on your high yield savings accounts, or like stuff that literally affects everyday Americans. And now you fired a bunch of those people, and so you've got to flub some of that data and make some of it up. But everybody in the financial markets knows that you're making it up. So how many of them are going to trust you? How many of them are going to think that you're full of shit? And I mean, they're just creating a giant economic clusterfuck, is my point. And they don't care. Anyway, I want to get back to the protests. I'm getting too sidetracked. Yeah. So the protests were amazing. The 3.5% number, while it's not necessarily true that you need 3.5% in the street to overturn or overthrow a government or replace whatever wording you want to say, we need it anyway. It doesn't matter that it's been debunked. This was an argument that I had with someone in my family whose name will go unmentioned, my dad, was that even though it's been debunked, that doesn't mean that we don't need 3.5% of people in the streets. Right? We still need, we need 100% of people in the streets is what we need.
And if it gets people thinking, that they, that going and making these large things, that it will have a demonstrable impact, that they are galvanizing, people, and that there's solidarity, it helps give hope, which is something that we're sorely lacking in this time.
And the biggest weapon that we have against fascism is hope. That's the biggest weapon that we have.
Hope, satire, and mockery.
Yeah, but hope is the biggest. Satire and mockery, absolutely. And truth, but hope is the biggest, because people need to believe that their efforts are going to result in something.
Otherwise, you slip into nihilism.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
that's how you sleepwalk into fascism.
Right. And if I told you, if I made you believe that protesting didn't work, then would you?
I mean, me personally, probably.
I mean,
I've got some anger to
but
vent, but
there's a lot of people who wouldn't. Right?
That would just be like, it's pointless. What's the point?
It's not going to do anything.
The same thing with voting. It's like, well, nothing ever gets better, so what's the point? And it's like, because you guys keep doing a pendulum swing and incrementalism, and we have to make up all the losses that whenever it swings to the right, the left has to make up all the losses that are suffered, considering every single time a Republican, like, beyond my lifetime, like going before I was even born, every Republican administration, has led to at least, a recession or an economic downturn.
Yeah.
And so the only presidents that have actually had, and there were a lot of issues that went to this, but I mean, Clinton left with a surplus. And
he left with
did not survive.
That's correct.
That did not survive the Iraq War.
No, I don't think it survived 2001.
No,
it did. It did. It survived into, I want to say 2003 was the first deficit spending under Bush, I think, if I remember correctly.
I think so.
Because
that sounds about right.
What happened with 9/11 was that it basically caused a global recession in 2002. And so they did a bunch of deficit spending in the 2003 budget to try to pick things back up. That's my recollection, but I'd have to go back and actually.
It's been a while.
Yes, Titan, I know. That is where lawful evil elements of personality come in. Yes. Yeah. And, the point of the protests isn't that the protests necessarily will directly change things. It's that the protests will change you, so that you are more politically active and you are more.
And your neighbors.
Yeah. You and your, that you're active with your community. I guess that's what again, I'm really not here very much tonight, guys. Sorry, I'm doing my best. That there's that you understand that the sense of community can help, that we can win, that we're going to win. We are going to win. Here's the other thing eventually. I want to say. We're going to win. The things that I'm seeing that are happening right now, that are really occurring, especially the way that the Dodgers just kicked ice out of the stadium when they tried to show up. We're going to win. And we're going to hold a lot of these people accountable for the crimes that they've committed. But that doesn't mean that you can get complacent. And it doesn't mean that not showing up is an option. And if you aren't able to, actually go in person, you can still share it on social media. That's still showing up. I know I have a lot of followers and stuff on Blue Sky that are disabled or can't leave for some reason, or immunocompromised. They can't go to protests. And what they do is they share the content. They share videos. They share content about how you can sign up for protests, how you can help organize. That's showing up too. That counts. So, I don't want this to be a thing of you've got to be in the streets with a sign or, I don't believe any of that crap.
And it's not just, but we also need to take this a step further. Protests are great, and it is getting eyes on things and getting people to keep talking about it. So when they scattershot all these things, it can't just get brushed away, as easily.
Right.
But the fact is, we can't just wait until a month before midterms and start knocking on doors. You need to be having conversations with your friends and family and keeping these topics like front of mind. So even if you can't necessarily go out and march in the streets, you can have conversations with your neighbors and your family members that they may not be like, red hats that are all for genocide, but they're just kind of like not politically engaged. And they're just like, yeah, it sounds good. Or like, I thought Biden didn't do a good job, or I thought he was too old. Because Biden's form of dementia was the slow kind, that it's more obvious that he's got dementia, whereas Trump, he's the more boisterous and confident and charismatic type. So he's still just as mentally incompetent and deranged for the position.
Sure.
But you can't tell necessarily at first glance. So by talking about these things, keeping it front of mind.
Right. And I think that's a really, really good point, because it's kind of what Titan's saying here. Minimizing the damage until we win is the problem, and arguments over methodology divides the left. That's very, very, very true. And what we have to make sure is that we always want to speak truth to power, but that doesn't mean that we tear each other apart. There's a difference. And listen, I will call people out and criticize and whatnot, but right now, we're trying to beat something that wants to literally annihilate us. The things that I've been seeing on Twitter the past 2 weeks about Democrats are extremely concerning. It's not my main account. My main account is gone. It's deleted. I have a very small account where I just follow things and track them. And I post the interesting stuff to Blue Sky. But I mean, there's some very hateful memes out there regarding Democrats, and that means we've got to be on each other's side right now. I have news for you. You being a Democratic Bernie socialist, and somebody else being a more middle of the road Obama voter, and someone being a more blue dog Democrat Clinton lover, they see us all the same. So like sitting here and like differentiate, well, I'm this kind of Democrat, I'm this they will fit us all in the same ovens. So, I don't like centrist ideology very much. I think that the centrists have done everything they can to move people towards the right, even whether or not that was their intention. That's what they've done. But right now, if a centrist, or hell, if a MAGA person is like, oh, I want to fight back against this, I'm like, let's go. We're right now, we're going to be on the, we're in the foxhole right now, motherfucker. We're not, this is, the game is on, the game is afoot. ICE just showed up at the LA Dodgers game to do God knows what. Okay, they're arresting mayors and senators and
mayoral candidates, and the Marines are arresting U.S. citizens,
right?
Which is
I'm one of the good ones, exactly. This isn't, I listen. If you go on my Blue Sky, I probably every single day I say something about protecting trans people. Maybe not every single day. And I understand that a lot of the centrist ideology has been anti-queer, anti-trans, anti-black, anti-Hispanic. Lots of marginalized groups on the left have been hurt by centrist ideology. I get it. I've called it out for years. Okay, here, Twitter, Blue Sky, all over the place. It's not the time for that fight. I don't know. I'm sorry. That's how I feel right now. Like, yeah, I want to fight that fight with you, but that's not the fight that we need to be fighting right now. You know, when the SS is sneaking into your bedroom, you're not like, okay, Mr. SS, I know you're here to stab me, but I need to finish, you know, beating down this person next to me who could be helping me stop you from stabbing me. You know, that's where we are right now, you know, ideologically, metaphorically.
I think we can still, you know, I think we can still call out.
Yeah, I'm not saying not to call out. I'm saying well, I'm not going to be associated with you. You know, I'm cutting you. It's like, okay, yes, not currently, right? Not current. Yes, I agree. We should not be. We can't go to policy battles with those people. Yes. But we're not in a policy battle. We're in a battle. And those are different. Agreed. We should not be sitting down at the policy table with people that want to destroy trans people and like, you know, finding a middle. There's not a middle ground. Agreed. But if the person who doesn't want trans people to exist is like, hey, I'm going to help you with the fascists, you're like helping with the fascists.
We're fair, gonna, like, you know, deal with the fascists first, but like we should also, you know, be expecting more. But I mean, hell, like Joaquin Jeffries, like he was backpedaling on, you know, trans issues. Same thing with Gavin Newsom. Both of them have. So like, yeah, like, well, Gavin Newsom is more like anti-fascist than Joaquin Jeffries, and Chuck Schumer, who's like, look, if you know, Trump does, like, you know, do an unauthorized war in Iran, like we'll use the power of the Congress if and when and maybe perhaps something will do.
Here's
and
the thing.
Like, what the fuck?
Gavin Newsom and JD Vance are cut from the same cloth. They're both political opportunists. It's just that JD Vance is a political opportunist on the right and Gavin Newsom is a political opportunist on the left. Gavin Newsom, after the inauguration, for whatever fucking reason, saw that going anti-trans on the left was a political opportunity for him. He misfucking calculated because everybody was pissed. Even people that I suspect are actually TERFs were publicly pissed at him. That's how bad he fucked up. He is a political opportunist first and foremost. By the way, according to the latest polling numbers, he's polling at like 6%. Okay. The current front runner for the 2028 election is Kamala Harris. Now, that is multiple thousands of centuries in the future in political time. However,
honestly,
he's not.
AOC might actually beat out Kamala for that one with the no oligarchist, you know,
we have to do a whole other stream.
Yeah.
And we probably need to have Maya on for it. But yes, here's going to be I will allow a small sidebar to address this for 1 second. I think personally, if AOC ran for president and the establishment backed her, I think she would win. I don't think that she would just win. I think she would win an Obama style landslide. Okay. However, after Hillary losing and after Kamala losing, I do not believe that the DNC is going to get behind anyone except a white man. I don't believe in no. I'm not talking about the Democratic voters. I'm not talking about you and me. I'm not talking about the voters. I'm talking about the establishment people at the DNC. I think that they are too scared. And I think they're going to try to push a Newsom or a Bashir or a Beto. They're going to try to push some white guy on us. It's just how I think. No. Let me reformulate. I think they're going to try to push two white guys on us. I don't think they're going to allow a vagina on the Democratic ticket. I don't think that that they're going to try to keep all the vaginas off the ticket, because I think in their brains, and they're wrong, the problem was the vagina, not the messaging and the way the message was communicated.
Yeah, because the Democratic strategists are basically how to lose.
No, they're how not to lose. They are not. The Democratic strategy has never been how to win. It has always been how not to lose. It has always been you go far left during the primary and you hit the middle as the general election approaches. That has been the strategy for a long time. That's how Clinton won. That's how Obama won. Biden's win had a lot to do with the pandemic. Whole other conversation. I did streams about it ages ago. You can go watch it. I'm not reiterating that here. But that has been the Democratic strategy. It has never been how to win. It has been how not to lose. Where the Republicans, and Kitty is gone. Okay, it's not my internet. So, oh, she's back. Okay. Yes,
if you start
Maya.
out,
The problem was that's exact when I'm saying the way that the message was structured and the message was delivered, it was delivered in a racist, anti-trans way. I am not saying in any way, shape, or form that Kamala herself is anti-trans or racist or anti-Gazan or anti-Palestinian or any of that stuff. What I'm saying is that the way that all of it was structured and the way that the messaging was put forward was racist. Because my opinion, this is just my opinion, people at the DNC are racist. I don't know. It's the only thing that makes any sense. I don't, April, I agree on the racism. I don't agree on the misogyny. I believe, here's the other thing that I believe. Kitty, I believe that the Republicans will have a woman president before the Democrats.
probably.
Because I don't believe that misogyny is the problem. Fucking Texas had a woman governor. Governor Ivey was 84. I know it was the 80s.
But governor is not the same thing as president.
It's not the same thing. I'm just saying. Governor of
I don't
Texas.
think Florida.
Oh, it was the 20s.
Had.
I'm sorry. I thought it was the 1880s. I don't know. It was the 1920s. I'm so sorry. Governor of Texas from 1925 1927. Okay, so Ferguson, that was her name. I don't know. I was thinking Ivy. So this is what I'm saying. Don't tell me that it's. I don't think that it's misogyny. Now, I'm not saying that we aren't misogynist. I'm just saying I don't think that we're so misogynist that we can't elect women to positions of power and authority, even president. Just don't believe that. I don't believe that it's a misogyny thing. I believe it's a racist thing. Absolutely. Absolutely. Racism was working against Kamala and was working against Obama. I wonder if Obama had been a white dude, would he have won by even more? I don't know. I suspect, but I don't know. People were very mad at Republicans in general because last 4 years of Bush were just a disaster. My point is, I don't believe that misogyny is so bad in this country that a woman cannot become president. I do not believe that.
Florida,
because
maybe.
Kamala was vice president. Biden, if that was true, then Biden would not have been elected because he had Kamala as his running mate. So I don't.
The pandemic, I don't know. The pandemic was a, once in a lifetime.
I'm not saying that
so
we're
bungled.
not misogynist. I'm just saying I don't think that misogyny is so deep that a woman can't win president. It's just that I think that with the way that things are, I think that the Republicans running a woman at the top of their ticket would be more successful than a woman running at the top of the Democratic ticket, because the Democrats love to stab themselves in the face instead of win.
As of 2025, 18 states have never had a female governor. California, Colorado, Florida, Georgia, Idaho, Illinois, Indiana, Maryland, Minnesota, Mississippi, Missouri, Nevada, North Dakota, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, and Wisconsin.
And Miriam Ferguson was the first woman governor in Texas in 1925. I don't believe it. I don't believe that we're too misogynist for a woman president. I just don't believe it. Now, I believe that if it's a woman Democrat, that the Democrats will stab themselves in the face so much that it will look like misogyny. from the Democratic side, I literally, like, my words, my mouth doesn't work. I'm sorry. I'm extremely exhausted. I don't think that I'm wrong. I don't think I'm wrong. I know that everyone thinks that I'm wrong. I just don't think I'm wrong. Misogyny is a problem in this country. I don't think it's, here's the other thing. Per capita, more women vote than men, right? However, those women tend to vote Republican. It's a lot more white women that tend to vote Republican. So that's why I'm just saying, if the Republicans put a woman at the top of the ticket, I just think that she would have an easier time winning than the Democrats putting a woman at the top of their ticket. That's how I feel. I don't know. Maybe I'm completely wrong. We'll only know if the
time will
Republicans vote for a
tell
woman at the top of their
eventually.
ticket. Huh?
I said time will tell eventually.
Time's going to tell. Eventually, they're going to try it. Maya, we could do a series of 28-hour streams on the Democrats just stabbing themselves directly in the face.
I mean, there's also a lot of, internalized misogyny in the female population.
That's what I'm saying. Okay, yes. I'm not vocalizing this very well. What I'm saying is that if it was a woman on the Republican ticket, she would have an easier time of winning than a woman on the Democratic ticket.
Yeah, but the white women still have the internalized misogyny, even if they are voting Republican more.
I'm not saying that they don't. I'm saying that the misogyny in our country would not prevent a woman from winning the presidency if she was running as a Republican. I've always felt that way. I've always felt that way.
Sorry, I
know that they're misogynistic. I'm not saying that there's not a misogyny problem. I'm saying that I think racism was a bigger reason why Kamala didn't win than misogyny. That's what I'm saying. And I'm saying that if a woman ran on the Republican ticket, she would win, or she would have a better, easier time winning than on the Democratic ticket.
So, anyways,
I know, Maya. I know. I'm not excusing them. I'm saying that they will support one of their own in ways that we will find reasons to not support our own. There's an old line: conservatives fall in line and Democrats fall in love. And we've got to be in love with that Democratic candidate in a way that the conservatives don't have to be in love with their candidate. They just have to obey.
Yeah.
Anyway.
We should go back to the protests because we got way off track.
Yeah, well, I try to keep us on track, but I'm terrible at keeping us on track. So
it's okay. Like, there was a lot to say. We haven't had one of these shows in a while.
And the other thing to keep in mind is that, the way that we're supposed to be finishing this show in 17 minutes is that Trump is now making the killing of millions of Iranians a game show, TV game show. He's treating it like, he's like, well, we'll find out. I'll make a decision in 2 weeks about whether or not I'm going to kill you and everyone who lives with you.
Or telling them to, evacuate when there's a fuel shortage because the Israelis have already bombed fuel depots.
Right.
And so there are traffic jams and people trying to evacuate at like 2 or 3 in the morning because they don't know what's going to happen.
Sure, nobody does. Trump doesn't know what he's going to do. Frankly, stop. I'm sorry. I have a dog. He comes on this side of me and licks my leg and my arm. Then he goes on this side of me and licks my leg and my arm. And he's just
like,
panting.
Love me. Here. Pay attention and love me.
That's what he's doing.
Hey,
he's just panting like that, just constantly. Just do it. Keep doing it. Keep going. Hi. Yeah, that's what he's doing. He just pants like that and licks me.
Sweet boy.
You're a hot mess. You're a hot mess. Is what you are.
But he's your hot mess.
Ew. What was that? What are you doing? Yeah, I know. You want to go outside. You got 15 minutes. Maya, it does sound like a them problem. This is what I wanted to talk about Iran and Israel. Okay. I have not liked Bibi Netanyahu for, I don't know, 23. When did he come on the scene? 2002? However long it is. I've not liked him ever. I've never liked him, right? I always thought that he was a warmonger and a cretin. And all he's done since he's taken power is prove to me that he's a warmonger and a cretin. He attacked Iran because he's a warmonger and a cretin. He just had an excuse. The same reason, Hamas unfortunately gave him a reason to, attack Palestinians, which is unfortunate. And he then he just decided the other day that Iran has nuclear weapons and I'm going to start bombing them. And then Iran fired missiles at Tel Aviv. And he's like, oh, well, if they're going to attack me, then I'm just going to attack them. And by the way, United States, you have to help me. I mean, that's how all of this happened, right? So why the fuck why should I care? Okay. Stop. He's like pulling my arm around. So I don't like any war. Okay. I'm against all war. I'm against all bombs. I'm against all hurting people. I don't like it. I don't like the death penalty. I don't like it. I'm against all of it 100% of the time. Okay, Franklin. Okay. 10 more minutes. Sorry, he's extremely distracting. Kitty, why should we feel like we need to help Bibi with something he started?
Well, I mean, the fact is the American people don't want that. It's the AIPAC funded politicians and Trump who, this guy that, back when Obama was in office, it was just mark my words, he's going to start war with Iran so that he can win the election and win votes because he doesn't know how to make a deal. And then you have Bibi going out and telling Trump, hey, you want to know how to get them to come to the table to make a deal? Let us attack them first. It's like, let us start a war and then they'll totally come to the table to negotiate. It's like, the fuck? That makes no sense whatsoever.
Just yesterday, if you want to see the clip Kitty's talking about, I posted it yesterday on Blue Sky. It's Trump in 2011, and he says it's the beginning of it starts with him saying Obama's going to start a war in Iran because he has no idea how to negotiate. Like, that's how the clip starts. It's all, you can just go look on my account and you'll just find it. In 2011, that was Trump, right? And now Trump. Okay, let's talk about the Iran nuclear deal. So the Iran nuclear deal was in place. Trump always blamed Obama, but it was a joint. There were many countries involved in making sure that this Iran nuclear deal went the right way. And there were, countries that had different deadlines for Iran to meet and inspectors. And there were tons of different.
The IAEA were in there. Everybody it was a global effort.
It was a global effort to make sure Iran was like, we want nuclear power. We don't want nuclear weapons. And the whole world was like, okay, if you want to enrich uranium to make power instead of weapons, we'll help you. We'll help you do that. Absolutely. And we were getting things from Iran, energy stuff and, oil, whatever. And in payment, I guess, there was some money that was going to Iran. Okay. So during Obama's final days in office, I guess, some of that money was being paid to Iran. It was Iran's money.
Yeah, it was their money.
It was their money that had been frozen in an account because Iran hadn't fulfilled some portions of the deal. And then they fulfilled those portions of the deal. And so they were due their money. And so Obama's like, well, they met the deal. They did what they were supposed to do. And Trump's like, he's paying $1.7 trillion, whatever. He just made up a number. It was like $600 million or something. But it was Iran's money. It was the money that had been paid as part of all of these agreements, because there were multiple trade agreements and there were multiple things going on. It wasn't just the United States and Iran. It was total bunch of different countries that had to do different things, and Iran had to do things and meet different deadlines and whatever. And the money was frozen until Iran met those things and they did them. And so the money was then unfrozen. And Trump's like, well, I'm pulling out of this whole deal because Iran's about to have a nuclear weapon. And Obama fucked it all up. And that was 2018. It's now 2025. They still don't have a nuclear weapon. Now, I have no idea if Iran wants a nuclear weapon. Were they lying? Were they not lying? I don't know. Nobody fucking knows except them. You know. And
you know
now,
what I do know, though? Even if they did get a nuclear weapon, they're not going to drop it on Tulsa. They are literally going to do it just so that the Israelis and Bibi can't do what they're doing right now. It would be
they would drop it
deterrent.
on Tel Aviv. I mean, it would also depend on how powerful a nuclear bomb are we talking about. I mean, are we talking about something that
would
could
be more of a North Korea thing where it's just like, okay, you can't do regime change, because look at what happened with Gaddafi. He, on the honor system, gave up his weapons of mass destruction,
Sure.
and then he got sodomized to death by a bayonet. So the world learned, don't tell us, don't tell the global community, especially not the Americans, if you are going for a nuclear weapon. It, like, not until you have it. Once you have it, then you have that protection, like North Korea, where it's a deterrent. Never give it up, though, because if you tell anyone you're trying to get one, or if you have them and you give them up,
right,
you end up like Gaddafi.
So, Titan, what I meant by how powerful was, there are some nuclear weapons that you want to explode in the atmosphere. Oh, and you know this. I'm just explaining this to the audience who doesn't know. That you want to explode in the atmosphere over a target, a city, that sort of thing. Then there are more tactical nukes that are, designed to impact a certain place, take out a certain facility, or so. Like I'm just talking about, if they had certain types of warheads, they may want to deliver them to Tel Aviv. If they obviously they have the weapons that can reach there. And if they have other weapons, they may want to, hit specific sites in Syria or so. I'm just saying there's multiple things they may want to use a nuclear weapon, on, and it would depend on the kind of nuclear weapon that they're developing and, what their payload strategy is. Nuclear weapons, by the way, nuclear weapons are extremely difficult to keep nuclear because I don't want to talk too much about this. I guess I shouldn't talk too deeply about this, but the material inside has to maintain an electric charge so that it doesn't degrade into a different type of material that is not fissible. Fissionable. Anyway, so that's one of the ways that when nuclear weapons are around, because you can't just like put a nuclear weapon. That's one of the reasons why the nuclear suitcase bombs were always kind of like, okay, I mean, you could have something that's like maybe this big, but it would kind of be obvious that you're carrying something. Like, it's not, because also the delivery has to travel a certain amount to reach a certain speed. And so the two materials hit each other and an atom actually splits. So that's not something that's going to fit in a suitcase, although it might, you could maybe fit in like a smaller, container. Anyway, that's one of the reasons we know where nuclear weapons are, because we have the sniffers, the planes up in the sky that sniff for different types of radiation. And you can see when something, like the Cuban missiles, we knew that we were setting up the missiles because we were flying over, and we knew what to look like. We knew how big they had to be in order to reach the United States at that time with that technology. They weren't nuclear. They could have been nuclear, but like we knew about the platforms and stuff. So they're saying there are ways to determine when Iran has this stuff. And all the people on the international stage are saying, well, Iran doesn't have any of the things that they would need infrastructure-wise to have nuclear weapons. That's the problem. Bibi's like, nah, they're going to have it in 3 weeks. They can have it in 3 weeks.
He's been saying that since the 90s, though.
Right.
Like months or weeks away. He's been saying the same thing since the 90s. And the IAEA, did the inspections. Iran let them go in. And even after Trump killed the nuclear agreement, Iran still followed it. Even after it got killed. Now they're like, fuck it, we're not going to follow it anymore. And it's
Physical's a
because
word.
it got like it got, nuked, for
Right.
lack of a better
Well,
term.
and porpoise. Oh, porpoise. Here's the thing about Bibi Netanyahu. He lies about everything. He always has. He's always lied about shit, and he's always said that. I mean, it's been Iran for most of it, but there was also the whole period where he was trying to convince everybody that, was it the West Bank was going to invade Tel Aviv? It was like the late 2000s.
Let's not also forget that Netanyahu also was the one that gave a speech saying that if you topple Saddam, it will lead to wonderful things happening in the Middle East.
He gave that speech in front of the UN, in fact.
How'd that work out?
Supporting Colin Powell's presentation to the UN, if I remember correctly. That's been a long time. But so... and Bibi is just like Putin. He's just strangely been in power for 2 decades now. And it's like, how are you still in power? Like, how are you just still in charge of everything? Like, doesn't that seem a little dictatory to people? I mean, FDR, love the FDR, but after 16 years, we were like, all right, he died. But we were like, we're going to pass an amendment and be like, no. Although,
to be fair, that was the opposition party that wanted to pass that amendment,
Sure. But after that, we were like, okay, 8 years is enough. And that's one of the problems that we're having with Trump. Because it's been 2 years, as of 2 days ago, I think it's been 10 years since he came down on his escalator.
I'm on a stream.
And it's getting a little bit too long for America. Americans are not used to having somebody at the top echelons of political power for this long. And people are getting exhausted with him. And I'm just talking about normies. I'm not talking about polls, I'm just talking about people I know that aren't that politically engaged. They're just like...
Because he first came on the scene when Obama was still in office, mostly just as a talking head with the whole birtherism and everything. Then he ran in 2016, and he hasn't been out of the political spotlight since. He's been the de facto leader of the Republican Party since 2016.
Right. And what you're going to run into is you've got the Josh Hawleys, and this is what we're going to finish on, because I'm tying this back to our protest. So just stick with me. You got the Josh Hawleys, you've got the Katie Britts, you've got the Mike Lees, you've got these younger generation. I mean, fuck them all, but you've got this younger generation of 40 to 50 something old Republicans that would like to be president someday. And they can't ever become president if somebody else is president forever. And what I'm telling you, Josh Hawley voted against the crypto thing. Okay? Do you know why Josh Hawley voted against the crypto thing? We can say it's about crypto. No. It's because Josh Hawley wants to run for president, and he wants to give indications to the middle of, I stood up to Trump. Here's a time that I didn't go along with Trump. That's why, because Josh Hawley knew it was going to pass.
It's a safe bet because, nobody cares about too much.
He asked his staffers, and like, are Democrats voting for this? Yeah, like 30 Democrats. All right, I can vote against this. And I can provide a contrast with Trump, because Hawley and his people know that people are exhausted with Trump. And in 2028, he can stand up. Just like, remember Ted Cruz? One of the reasons everybody hated Ted Cruz 2016 was that Ted Cruz didn't even say Trump's name at the RNC in 2016. Didn't even say his name. Gave a whole speech without saying Trump's name. And everybody felt that he was insulting Trump, who was obviously the nominee by the time that speech happened. And Hawley wants to set himself up as somebody that can go to the RNC in 2028 and say, I know you're sick of this Trump guy. Hawley will fix it. Josh Hawley wants to be president. Now, I'm not a fan of Josh Hawley. I'm not endorsing Josh Hawley. Okay, Josh Hawley can go suck a fucking egg. Yeah, he sucks as a human being. But you're going to start seeing some of these prominent Republicans who know that they have to start stepping outside of the bounds to get people talking about them ahead of 2028. DeSantis will as well. DeSantis is going to want to run in 2028 as well.
DeSantis will never, ever.
But he's got to run, and in order to run, he's got to differentiate himself from Trump. By the way, this is DeSantis' season for dissenting against Trump. Do you know why? What season is it? Hurricane season. And what is Trump holding his grubby little hands around? All the FEMA money. And DeSantis is going to use it against him. Just watch.
But honestly, not just DeSantis.
Sure.
Like everybody in the South, everyone that shares a border with the Gulf of Mexico or the Atlantic Ocean is going to need FEMA money.
Yep.
Especially because we're already seeing record high temperatures.
Yeah.
And we're not even to the height of summer yet.
A hurricane hit Mexico last night. A Category 3 hurricane. On June 18th, a Category 3 hurricane in mid-June is terrifying, by the way.
NOAA, they're gutting NOAA as well. Yeah. So you're not going to have the same kind of data on the storms. You're not going to know how strong it is. You're not going to know necessarily where exactly it's going to hit. You're going to see a lot more people dying. And the property damage is going to be catastrophic. And they won't be able to rebuild.
I want to thank you guys.
Can't afford it.
I want to thank you guys for watching, putting up with us one more time. Go protest.
Yes, do that.
That's your job right now, is to protest. If you can't go to the protest, promote the protest, talk about the protest, share about the protests, get other people to the protest who can protest.
Yes.
Thank you for watching. We'll see you guys next time.